Welcome back to Kiwi Bred. The success of pt2 continued on the racetrack last season with dual Group 1 winner Say No More. Kiwi Bred talked to her breeders about her dam, our Lucy.
Brian Hutchinson was so determined to race a horse with a Mills Reef 5 Arrows cross that he decided he would breed his own. Hutchinson brought retired Australian mare Our Lucy, whose dam Lucy Primrose was a 5 Arrows mare. Our Lucy was raced in Australia by Peter Harris, who retained shares in the mare. Terry Boys later joined the partnership, and between the three of them, they have been responsible for breeding Our Lucy, including her dual Group 1 winning daughter, Say No More. Australian-based Hutchinson, Boys and Harris sent Our Lucy to New Zealand in search of a Mills Reef line. pt2 ticked all the boxes, but was initially out of their price range, so Our Lucy was sent, as they described, to all sorts.
Our Lucy's been to a lot of variety of stallions, all different colours and shapes. And none of them were overly expensive, I might say. You know, likes of Bank On and British Banker and Four Seasons and Behar and others.
Our Lucy produced 6 foals, who were all winners on the racetrack, including Nudge, Bank On Her and Lucy Love.
Eventually, we finally got to go back to a Mill Reef, and we went to pt2. pt2's dam is Gull Nook by the Mill Reef line. She's in a Mill Reef line mare. And he was an exceptionally good horse in Europe, you know. He was a good middle distance performer, and he's had some cracking horses. He's done well as a sire in Australia, and he's a consistent getter of winners with pt2, I think.
Our Lucy had her first date with pt2 in 2003. That mating produced a colt, Pentor, who was sold at the NZB Select sale for $130,000. Our Lucy then returned to pt2 in 2006.
The only reason she really went back to pt2 was because of the Karaka situation, you know, when he was just a brilliant looking colt. And then when it happened, of course, there's a bit of a joke around Rich Hill, you know, about the chestnut fillies by pt2 aren't much good. Well, it's not quite right, it's quite the reverse actually. They're flying in all directions, and recurring, and others are, and Zarita, you know, they're all chestnut fillies, and they're all being some of them outstanding, you know. So I don't know whether it's just sort of a tongue-in-cheek joke, but anyway, they sort of make a bit of a talk about it because he's pitch black. You know, you've seen the horse pt2. He's a dead black horse, and the foal we got, the first foal, he was black, and a stunning type, very good, beautiful horse. So that's why we decided to go again, and of course at the end of it all, when she was born, we gone, oh, chestnut filly. There she is, she's the star of the show.
Say No More was retained by Hutchinson, Boys and Harris and syndicated to race. She was placed in the care of trainer Paul Duncan.
He's a pretty laid-back sort of bloke, Paul, and he didn't say, oh, you know, you've got a champion here, did he? He just says, oh, she'll be all right. That's his sort of stock standard, she'll be all right.
She'll go all right, she'll be well.
Paul Duncan had remained coy, but held the mare in high regard, lining Say No More up in the Group 1 Thorndon Mile in only her 9th race day start.
Paul says, I'm really going to try and get her into that Thorndon Mile. And says, oh, geez, we're shooting a bit high here. But he says, no, she's been winning, and she'd been winning, quite consistent. She'd had a couple of seconds, but certainly more wins than seconds. And so we thought, oh, well, we'll go to Trentham, what the hell, you know. And she's got in on the minimum weight. And we only got in, like, truthfully, about 4 days before the race, we finally made the field.
Very touch and go. Very.
We didn't think we were going to get into the field. Anyway, she got in, and there it is. She cleaned them up. It was pretty good.
Say No More starting to get home strongly. Postman's daughter getting up on the inside. Say No More sprinted hard. Sadis is trying to respond over on the inside. And then we've got Smolder and Jet Set Lad. Say No More in front. They put plenty on this through the weekend. They are home in the Huckle Thorndon Mile. Say No More, Postman's daughter. Jet Set Lad.
Duncan freshened Say No More for the autumn, and expectations were high when she lined up in the Group 1 New Zealand Thoroughbred Breeders' Stakes at Te Aroha. Say No More delivered again.
Homeward bound they are in the New Zealand Thoroughbred Breeder Stakes, and Fleur de Lune the leader. A length clear from Say No More, coming after her quickly. 2 lengths away, then we've got Smolder in behind them. Followed further back by No Excuse Maggie, then Floria. Wider out, Xanadu starting to power home. At the 150, Fleur de Lune, Say No More, Xanadu, and Fazzle right down the outside. Fleur de Lune on the inside, Say No More, Fleur de Lune, I reckon it knows from Xanadu from on the outside. Say No More, it's very close.
Say No More has been a welcome surprise for the trio, who have been on course to witness both of the mare's Group 1 wins. They are excited for the future of Say No More and the family they are developing.
It's very exciting to see what we can get out of the family, especially with our Lucy getting old, and it'll be very interesting and very, very exciting.
Our Lucy is now enjoying retirement, but Hutchinson, Boys and Harris will continue to breed from her daughters, Bank On Her and Lucy Love, who will both be served by pt2 this year.
Say No More will do her future racing from Paul Duncan's new base in Caloundra. I'm sure they'll be looking to boost her pedigree page with some black type races in Australia. And speaking of Australia, that's where we head right now with New Zealand Bloodstock's Richard Haynes.
Hello and welcome to Kiwi Bred Abroad, brought to you by the Singapore Turf Club, racing at Kranji every Friday and Sundays. Well, we're joined today by a man that's made Sydney home, but is very much a Kiwi at heart. I speak of Brian York. Brian, thanks for joining us today. And we were saying off camera that you've been out of the saddle a little while now.
Mate, it'll be nearly 10 years. Derby Day this spring, Victoria Derby Day, it'll be 10 years. So it's been a while. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it's gone quick.
Brian, you're very much a Kiwi, but Sydney's been home for you now for many years.
Yeah, Richard, probably about 15 years now. Moved 97 down here from Brisbane. Moved from New Zealand to Brisbane in 1986, so I had a good 11 years or so up there, and moved down to Sydney here in 97, as I said, and about 15 years down here now.
You watch the racing in Sydney pretty closely nowadays, and we'll get to that shortly for another reason. You rode against some great riders in your time. How do you rate the jockeys in Sydney at the moment, competitive-wise?
Oh, look, they're as good as they've ever been. You know, there's the old timers are still there. Jimmy Cassidy, you know, obviously, and he's been a champion nearly all his life, really, from the time he was a kid and right up until now. He's still riding as well as ever. But you know, the Glenn Schofields and the Corey Browns and the Hugh Bowmans are, you know, they'd fit in any era really. They're as good as when I was riding against the Dipmans and the Quintons and that sort of thing. These guys can hold their own against that sort of quality, I think. And
your association with the Kiwi bred horses has always been strong, from starting at Might and Power, amongst others. You've grown up riding them, and that kept on going here in Australia. Yeah,
look, great staying red horses over there, and Might and Power was one of the best. Probably at one stage he was rated the best horse in the world, so that's how good he was, and he was that good too. I think it was a title that he was entitled to, well deserved. You know, he was a great horse to me. Riding aside, Brian, you have moved into more of a media role now. Can you give us an idea of your role with TVN? It's an important role on race days, trying to help the punters out there find a winner or two. Yeah, look, the market always, well, people do their form and they know who they want to back, but you know, they're not always the best looking horses in the race, and sometimes they might, even though they're in the market, they might have had a bad couple of nights and not eaten or looked a little bit off on the day, which, you know, does happen sometimes. You watch them in the parade ring and the favourites often don't look as good as some of the others in the field, and, you know, and that's when some of the long shots kind of get up. So it's good for the punters at home to have somebody here that can look at the horse in the parade ring and give an opinion, and on type as well. I mean, there are a lot of horses in the race that probably lightly raced. Maybe they step up in distance, whether they look like they're the sort of horse that'll handle that type of thing, and you know, all those variables come into it. And it's good to have somebody here at the races that can do that, and I'm enjoying it. And it gives me a chance to get back to the races and do something constructive.